What's going on? We're doing this again. We've got Linda from gBeta, Zach from Prismatext, and Jen joining us from Alpine Fit. A couple of founders. Linda is the director of gBeta Anchorage, which is this awesome accelerator program she's going to tell you guys about. We're talking about startups and how they solve the right problems, not just solving a problem. So let me bring you guys on. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah. So cool. Hey, Jen, Alpine Fit, you've done some pretty awesome stuff. Like before you founded the company, like how did all of that lead to founding Alpine Fit? And what is Alpine Fit?
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, yeah, I'm Jen Loofbourrow. My company's Alpine Fit. We make adventure essential base layers and accessories focused on comfort and fit. And wow, yeah, my background was kind of multifaceted in nature that led me to this. I worked in materials development at Lululemon straight out of university. I owned a retail store selling bras, underwear, and swimwear, which kind of informed me a lot about the importance of fit for body shapes. And then I ran wholesale sales and sort of business operations for SOOOO, a women's outerwear company. So it was kind of just all these different pieces of the puzzle came together to create this idea.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So like a lot of your experiences helped you really refine what Alpine Fit was supposed to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it totally informed various aspects of the business, and then obvious places where I needed to hire complementary team members to balance out the different experience background that I had to build a company.
That's cool. Right on. And then Zach, you're founder of Prismatext. You want to tell us, like, man, tell us about reading a book, and what did you put here? Read a book, smell better. Is that what we wrote? No, read a book, learn a language.
Yeah, I started working on Prismatext kind of almost as a way to win a bet with some friends, but really the original idea came from reading some of the classics. I went back and I was reading, I think it was Clockwork Orange, and there's some of the street slang in the book is based on Russian vocabulary, and I didn't speak any Russian at the time, but to this day I remember that drug means friend and devachka means girl, and so I thought this was a really interesting way to start acquiring a foreign language, and so that ultimately became the seed of the idea that led to what is now Prismatext, which is a way that you can read a book in your native language, and as you read, that book becomes more and more saturated in the target language that you're learning. So it's a gradual introduction of foreign words and phrases.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And you had your experience then, it was in software development, and you had this skill set, and then you found a problem area to apply it to?
Kind of, yeah. So my first job out of college, I was actually a teacher. So, I have 5 years of teaching experience, doing education. After that, I worked with Amazon. I was one of their go-to book cover designers and typesetters. So I had a lot of publication design experience. And then shortly after that, started doing product design for an IoT company, and at the same time bolstering my GitHub repo and coding and contributing to code bases and stuff. So yeah, kind of a mix of education, design, publication, and software. And then so Prismatext is kind of the sum of everything I've ever learned. So
that's incredible.
Cool. Sounds familiar.
Yeah, sounds familiar. So I have a question for both of you guys. Like, so, I mean, before you were getting started, like, there's a lot of already clothing, technical clothing companies out there, right? And there are language companies out there. What is it that made you say, okay, what, I have to offer is different, or is that how you were thinking about it? Like what, because I feel like, and maybe this could be an answer for you, but also kind of an inspirational answer for people to not necessarily be afraid to get into the market that already has players in it. Like, can you talk to us through that sort of thought process?
Absolutely. I mean, when I was talking about this idea conceptually before actually getting to work on starting it, people were like, there's a million base layers out there. And, you know, there's a lot of naysayers. There's always going to be a lot of naysayers to your business ideas. The thing is that we have 3 unique selling features. One is the silver fiber containing base layer. There are other garments out there and technologies using odor eliminating fabrics, but no one specifically using it for long, extended backcountry outdoor adventuring travel. So there was still a unique opportunity to use this special silver fiber I developed into the fabric in the application of outdoor adventure gear and essentials. And then the fit options for body shapes. There's no one in the outdoor sphere offering multiple shapes for different body proportions. And that's like everyone knows there's brands that fit them, brands that don't fit them. And there's a huge opportunity to design good quality, like a great looking piece, a great functioning piece, and then expand how many customers can actually use it by offering different body proportions in every size. And then domestic manufacturing of these kinds of things to offer buying choices in line with people's values. That was another area of opportunity. So if you can find some unique properties and unique attributes that you can really focus on that are going to please your target customer, that's how you can sort of go up and compete against the million other base layers that are out there.
And what about you, Zach?
So I would say, I mentioned earlier that I started Prismatext almost as a way to like win a bet. And so at that point, it was just kind of fun. But what really propelled me to want to do this and see it through is because it was something that I wanted for myself. When I first had these early ideas, I was doing a lot of, like I said, I was reading a lot, and I was also traveling a lot. And in the places that I was traveling, I wanted to study those languages. It's just a great way to connect with the place that you're in. The problem is that reading and studying a language are, you can't, I mean, those are both very mentally taxing activities, and you can't, if you spend 2 hours reading, you're not going to want to spend your next 2 hours studying a language. And so when I had this idea, I was like, oh, well, that actually, kind of 2 birds, 1 stone kind of thing. But one thing that has been a very exciting discovery along the way is that, I realized that just because I had a vision or a glimpse of Prismatext at the starting block, it doesn't mean that that's going to be what we end up with. Part of the fun of doing something like this is you get to learn so much along the way, not just about your business, but also what kind of product you want to build. And so I would say that it's important to not get locked into what that initial glimpse looks like, because it's going to change along the way. And so to always maintain kind of this flexible, malleable mindset as you pursue this amorphous thing that you're trying to build.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Zach, how do you face the word failure when people ask you about your failures? Because I feel like that mindset you have right there, that you're malleable, is helpful language in me. When I try to say failure, it's like, well, everything's just a learning thing. You adapt and you learn more about your customer. You learn more about what the type of product features you can offer to them. How do you see the word failure, and do you accept the use of the word failure in your world?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. The first couple of times are heartbreaking. Like the first time you give somebody a refund, you just feel terrible. It ruins your day. But yeah, you just kind of have to, like, in software, there's all this talk about bug hunting, right? You go find a bug and you fix it, and you deploy the fix. So I wouldn't, failure is not a terminus. It's not an endpoint. Failure is just a bug that happens in the timeline, and you got to go back and you got to, like, fix the bug and carry on. And like a lot of times what happens is when you fix that bug, for every person that complains about the bug, 5 people are going to tell you how great it is that this is resolved and it's so much better now. So it's like an investment. Invest in your bugs, and it'll It'll work out.
That's awesome. Invest in your bugs.
Invest in your
I love this. That's gonna scroll the screen here shortly.
Yeah.
Have either one of you guys identified like a point where like if this happened, we would just have to call it quits, or if this happened, we would just have to completely pivot to something new?
I think that it's hard to imagine what those what ifs would be. And it's a slow drip of the what ifs you maybe saw coming and didn't see coming. That is just like the daily challenge of running a business. I really don't know if I could say that there is that one what if, because I would just be like, okay, we got to make lemonade out of these lemons, no matter what or how ridiculous it is. You're talking to, two people who are in this world coming through this pandemic time and now feeling like the latent effects of the pandemic time. Like we're push up our sleeves and, no problem seems insurmountable.
Yeah. Right on. What about, has there been a time since founding that your product offering has shifted?
For me, I would say we haven't done, there's one major side tangent, and that is that in the early stages of COVID, when the PPE and medical grade masks were in short supply, we pivoted and made face masks as a way to, still be in business, still pay our team to manufacture and whatever. So that was a side tangent product offering. In terms of our actual unique selling feature type product, we've mostly just refined it. We thought we would offer a lot broader of product categories, and we found that it's really a lot more unique if we focus on a very narrow product offering and offer it really well. So I'd say we've just refined and focused it rather than changed it significantly.
Sure. That's awesome.
That's a great point. Like, how did you discover that it's better to focus?
Well, bouncing ideas or, researching what other businesses do, especially with our remote location here in Anchorage, Alaska, where we don't have a lot of other industry, built up around the garment and apparel industry, that it's much better in terms of, using the same raw material inputs to make multiple different types of products. Just communicating the message of what unique things you're doing to your customers. There's just a lot of, mini economies of scale, so to speak, with staying narrow and focused and like really identifying to your customer. And then also the cost, like the purchase of materials. Like there's a lot of things that make sense, both with how small, new, and the fact that we're trying to carve out space in an industry where there's a lot of other players doing one aspect of that really well.
So it was more of like an internal operational decision versus the customers have sort of told you that one way or the other.
Well, customers tell us we should make a million things, everything from like we have in our office space, we sewed really big insulating curtains to insulate this cold garage door wall. And people come in and tell us that we should make camper van curtains. It's like, yeah, we'd be effing good at that, but we're not going to do it.
That's a great point. Yeah. And then Zach, same kind of question for you about pivoting, your early stages, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, my background being in publishing and knowing kind of how things work at the self-publishers and Amazon and all that stuff, my initial ideas for these books, because that's what we're doing, we sell books. My initial ideas were just that, okay, we're gonna create these ebooks, we're gonna get on a distribution network like Overdrive, we're gonna sell into public libraries and schools, and we're gonna be on Libby. We're going to do all these things. And what we realized is that, yeah, that's all great, but that also makes us very susceptible to deployment timelines of third parties, which is not good. It also means that our books are effectively, or once the customer or the reader gets the book, it's effectively a black box. We don't know what's going on. And so the biggest pivot and probably the most obvious one is very recent. We launched our mobile app on all the app stores a couple of weeks ago. And that's going to allow us to really dial in the customer experience. They're going to get a whole bunch of new features. We're going to be able to see like, okay, how engaged are they? We're going to give them a whole bunch of new things like progress tracking, social components, gamification. And so, yeah, we really think that we're going to be able to offer a much better experience through the mobile app as opposed to, okay, yeah, just one and done, hand off the ebook. So yeah, that's probably the biggest pivot that we've made recently. So
when you guys try new things with your guys' businesses, or when you refine them, because I love that, refining is it, doing those small changes is, did you have to consider, or what considerations, what were your thought processes as founders to your company's capabilities when you were planning to release something new, or you were planning to launch to the app stores? Did you give consideration to, okay, we're going to be out there more, people are going to find more bugs, we're going to have to squash them faster? Are things like that something you consider before you release something new?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what do they say in the Bible? Gird up your loins. You just like, here comes the wave, like grab onto something, here it comes. And it's just like, it ultimately just kind of comes down to like, do you want this or not? Like, yes, no. If you're not, then, get out. But I think if you've gotten to that point where you ask that question, it's very obvious. Huh? What'd you say, Jen? Sorry.
Oh, are you asking that of yourself? Do you want this or not? Is that you introspectively asking that, or is that you asking it to? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I'm asking that of myself. But like, for anybody watching, it's like when you get to that point and you ask yourself that question, you already know what the answer is because you've come that far. You're not just gonna like throw it in, So.
Yeah, that's great. Kind of maybe going back to the customer. So how do you, the customer tells you, make curtains, make, everything. How do you listen to them, but also realize, okay, these are the sort of the capabilities, these are the economies of scale, or these are the kind of industry standards. How do you kind of balance both and know that you're doing the right thing here?
Okay, well, so there's a kind of a expression in my industry that is, you can't design by consensus, and maybe that applies in any industry. So I think it's like you have to allow two separate things to exist at once. You have to be open to feedback, customer research, finding out what the customer wants, receiving the, positive reviews are awesome to read. Constructive reviews are harder to read, but like bringing that all in and then, holding that all, having a space where you hold all of that information in and consider it and think about how you want that to affect the products you release in the future. And then you need to be in a very different headspace when you're designing or making a decision about what's good for the business or good for products to launch, and try to like have that all in the back of your mind, but block it all out and think about what's true to, in this case with clothing, it's easy to use the word design. You have to be in a really creative, really like clear-headed space to do creative design work. And then you bring in all the thoughts and considerations of how am we actually going to construct this efficiently? How does this affect the feedback we've heard from customers? And oftentimes when you're creating something new in a space, especially amongst people who think, oh, that's exists before, that's been done before, what could you possibly bring new? Or you should do this, you should do this, you should do this. It's possible that if you've gone this far to create a product that people are excited about, you might know what people want that they don't even know that they want yet themselves, which maybe what I'm saying is a little bit cliche, but I've seen it again and again and again. And you absolutely do need to listen, and you do need to hold all of that. But then you also need to do like clear-headed design and forward-thinking work that makes sense for all of the things that you like, your why, and put it out there, and that's attached to the why of that very unique target customer. That's kind of, I was babbling a little bit there, but I think that you have to create the space for both.
That makes sense. So like when you're in that, so you're in your kind of the customer space, that's one space when you're receiving, when you go back and you retreat and you're in your own space, are you just completely sort of closed off, or are you talking to mentors? Are you reading blogs? Are you looking at what other companies doing? Like, how do you know that you're on the right path in thinking what you should actually do? Like, can you talk that process? And Zach, for you as well, what helps?
Do you want to go for? I've talked a bit there for Zach. I can talk again after.
Oh, good. I was just, I'll piggyback on what you said a little bit earlier. I know Elon Musk is a very polarizing person, but he had a really interesting observation about basically the direction of a company is the sum of vectors, and each person in the company and each person outside the company, in the form of feedback. Every one of those things is vectors, and so the direction that you're going, it'll be easier to evaluate. Customer feedback, people telling you to make curtains for camper vans. It'll be easier for you to evaluate the validity of those things if you see it as a vector, right? And you know the direction that your company's going, and if there's a tiny vector going in the opposite direction, it's probably pretty easy to discount. So I don't know if that helps at all, but that's kind of something that I keep in the back of my mind. Awesome. What was the other part of it, Linda?
The other part was, when you're in your own headspace, do you block everything out, or do you turn to mentors, other companies' blogs to figure out, if you're on the right path and like what you should do? Like, who do you consult? Do you consult yourself, or do you consult the external environment?
Not to get all new agey, but I think traveling 2 miles by foot will solve just about any problem. Like, you can run it, you can walk it, whatever. It's 2 miles for whatever reason. 2 miles is my magic number. So
I love that. There's definitely sorry, Jen. There's definitely when I've heard a lot of podcasts about people walking and solving problems. Like, apparently, like different institutes and colleges, they would have actually woods around it so that people could walk and like solve problems while they're walking. So that's a thing. Sorry, go ahead, Jen.
I feel like there's a Thoreau quote I should pull out now because it seems relevant to that, going for walks to solve problems. Sorry, I don't have it. I second that. I think it goes back to those same headspace things to answer your question, Linda, about consulting outside sources to make my decision. I think I go through a research development information gathering phase, and then I go into a siloed creative design, like business strategy type of phase. And then I am a really collaborative management type of person. So if I have that expert in my contact list or on our team directly, I will discuss what I think in my sort of quiet headspace or on my walk sort of space is the right plan. And just like even the action of talking about it out loud to that other person who has really relevant knowledge to that subject. Sometimes even just saying it out loud crystallizes your own sort of, research development and gut thing. And then also seeing what their questions or poking holes in your theories or your ideas are, brings to the table. So yeah, I'd say it's like, for me, it's really sort of compartmentalized, but it definitely brings it all into one to take the final action forward.
That's cool. Jen, you mentioned... Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Zach.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, vocalizing is definitely very important. A lot of developers keep a little rubber duck on their desk, and when they're trying to figure something out, they'll talk to their rubber duck as if it was, somebody listening, and that's like a way to get yourself unstuck. So I don't have a rubber duck. I've got some dried apricots, but it's not quite the same.
Oh, that's funny.
I love what you guys are talking about. That I feel like you guys make me think of all these like speakers that I've heard about, or like all the like podcasts are popping out in my head. There was one speaker that the Junior Economic Development brought in for their innovation summit one year. He kind of talked about that pulse, that like almost like a heartbeat of innovation, where you kind of open yourself up to the external environment and you're really, doing a lot of sensing, a lot of input, and then you close back down and you're in your own headspace, right? You're kind of like boots on the ground, head down, working on what you need to work on. Then you expand again. And his point was like, do that early and often, so that way, you know, you're not just super siloed the entire time, but you're also not letting so many other people distract you from what it, you know, your own path and what you're really actually trying to build. So I love that you said that, Jen.
That's a great question.
So if anybody's just popping on, just starting to watch, we're talking about startups and how they solve the right problem. We've got Linda Janes. She's the director of gBeta Anchorage. Jen, the founder of Alpine Fit, and Zak, the founder of Prismatext. We've been talking about a lot of awesome stuff. So if you've got questions you want us to talk about, drop them in the comments. We'll pull them in and pop them up. If you're looking to connect with anybody, find these people on Facebook. They're all awesome, doing awesome things. Jen, you mentioned like shortly pivoting to, we're going to make masks during when this pandemic first started. Like, did that experience of shifting your business that way, short term, did that provide you any new like vision of what you could do or what your capabilities are inside your organization?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, so many learnings from that. It was really, really interesting because we have a small manufacturing space in Anchorage, Alaska. It was so interesting to boil all of our product manufacturing down to one extremely simple product that was like just a couple of raw materials and then mass, sort of as mass as we can get in a small space, production. So that was an interesting like opportunity for an experiment and learning and bringing in a lot of the tools that you would use, you know, measurement tools, metrics, and these sorts of things. That was a huge learning. Sorry, now I'm kind of getting on a tangent. What was the other part of your question?
I think you're muted, Graham.
I sure am. What were like some really, really good ahas that you took away from that experience about the capabilities of your organization?
Okay. We can pivot. We can pivot and we can do it really well. We can instantly come up with a new product, get the knowledge out there that we're doing it, and have sales for it. Should we do that? Maybe not. We pivoted and made nothing but face masks for 5 months. All the while, the interest and time opportunity for people to get out and do outdoor rec was on the rise. The demand for outdoor gear was on the rise. And we missed an opportunity to have we had our raw material supplies in place earlier than COVID really hitting. So we had a huge amount of our raw materials to make our actual product line, our base layers and everything. And the pivot to face masks, while it definitely generated cash flow, kept our team employed, and all of those positive things, and we can do that, we deviating from our actual product made us not be able to make and sell the product that we have our better margin on, that we're better at selling, and had all this scale behind, like having brought to market those products. So it was like a business within a business, and it was like, oh great, we can do this and we can survive this. And I like to think of our business as like apocalypse proof or something like that, because we have this capability. But the long-term lesson is that maybe we shouldn't be so quick to act in an emergency situation, and maybe we should zoom out and this, that, and the other thing. Hindsight's 20/20, but we missed the opportunity by not having more of our regular product in stock sooner when the demand was rising.
Cool. So like experimenting early, paid off. If you ever have to do it again, you've got that experience now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool.
And I have a question. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. No, Graham, go ahead.
I was just going to ask Zak, like, are you, is there anything that Prismatext is working on right now? Like new ideas, challenges that you guys are trying to solve that you haven't released yet, but you're exploring them. You're, trying to implement them.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that, pretty much everybody thinks like, oh man, I would love to read my Harry Potter and study French. And so we're actually approaching it kind of in a multifaceted way because, I mean, software is easy to not copy, but it's easy to find similar functionality in other things. That's why we have 1,000 different, to-do apps and, a bunch of different third-party e-readers even. And so what we're really trying to do is establish a moat, not just of our software, but also our relationships with publishers. So actually in the middle of the gBeta cohort last fall, I flew over to Frankfurt, Germany, where the world's largest book fair is. And I met my co-founder there. And so we started building relationships with publishers. We've pitched a number of the big ones, ones that we would all recognize. We approached the publisher of a series of books about children and magic that I can't exactly say, but they're very receptive. But being the big players in the space, they we have to focus on the small to medium sized publishers in order to kind of assure the larger players that this is a sure bet for them, and it allows them to add a new revenue channel. So the short answer is yes, we are working on things, and those things are more contemporary titles. So yeah,
Super cool. I'm excited to see what's to come, Zach, and definitely French and Harry Potter. I can do that.
I never said Harry Potter. I said children and magic.
Yeah, I thought earlier you said that. You said children and magic secondly, but then, anyways, yes, children and magic.
They do want to read Harry Potter in French. So
I was just talking about myself, anyways.
Yeah. Sorry.
I do have a question for you guys. Kind of taking it back to the genesis of your companies. When and how did you know that you were like all in, right? You have an idea, you're like, okay, pitter patter, this and that, some customer research, talking to people, etc. Maybe talk about how and when you knew that, and what advice you would give to people, and how, like, what is it? Is it a gut feeling? Is it sales? Is it customer discovery? What is it that you think that somebody should like really think about and say, I'm all in this? And that's excluding necessarily quitting their day job, right? They can still have their day jobs, but just your full investment, like you're putting yourself all in as much as you can.
For me, I very distinctively remember I had done the research of what I wanted to sort of, the concept research. I had written a business plan, done a business plan competition. Everyone was like, oh, this is so exciting, whatever. All that had happened. The thing that was really it for me was when I got the deal to work with the fiber supplier that I wanted to work with for our silver fiber containing base layer fabric. It is an internationally renowned company. I had to go through all kinds of paperwork hoops, and I had to fly down to Seattle to have a meeting with them to sort of establish that relationship. So for me, it was getting that meeting, getting that documentation through, and then the actual flying down to Seattle to establish that relationship with them. And that seems pretty early on for being all in, but like that, to me, that was like, that was a really big deal. And there were other smaller things, but I'd say that one stands out the most.
And I mean, at that point, you didn't have any sales, correct? So how did they, sorry, Zach, just want to follow up question to Jen real quickly. How did they buy into you, into the vision, into the product? Like what was your strategy there?
Well, I guess I have that, okay, I'm going to go on a tangent from what your actual question is. I suffer from this imposter syndrome. So it was a really, really big deal for me to even stick my neck out and reach out to this big company. I waited till I was like ready to pull the trigger on this. And they're a huge company that deals with like, $1 billion, whatever. They're really big. To be more focused on this. It was a really big deal that they took me seriously, I guess, is what it is. The fact that they even had the conversation with me. This industry is classic for you trying to establish a relationship, and they're like, oh, you don't want to start off with, you don't have a couple $1 million in revenue already, like you're just nothing, etc. So the fact that I had no physical product yet, but I was super committed to it, that they took me seriously, and we established this relationship. And it is one of the main unique selling features of our product that allows us to even have a business. So I think it was more like the fact that they took me seriously and they had this meeting, and we proceeded forward with me being able to have rights to use their fiber, work with a accredited mill that can knit this fiber into fabric, etc. It was like all tied up in that, the fact that I reached out to them and they took me seriously and we went forward.
Oh, that's super cool. Zak, you want to go next?
Sure. Yeah. I guess there were a couple moments because first of all, I think the main one that was hard for me to get over was the technical validation. Can this be done? And that was a long and arduous process of putting something together, seeing if it worked, going back. Actually, like I had to stop production, or I had to stop building it for probably 3 or 4 months to go back and learn another computer language to implement the part that I needed. But then once that clicked, that was the technical hurdle where I was like, okay, I can do this. I think the external validation from other people, probably 2 key points. One was the gradual erosion of me needing to hang on to the perfect ideal. And what I mean by that is that, I went to art school. I'm an art major. I very much have that in me, that, fine tuning and tweaking and making it perfect before you show it to the world. Right. And so that gradual erosion was just the sum of a lot of people who were close to me telling me, honestly, this will work. This is where it needs to be. And then the second one of the external validation was when I had my first customer who was not my mom. As soon as an order came in and it wasn't my mom, I was like, I did it. I'm here. I've arrived.
I love that. And actually, as a follow-up to both of you, who were your very first customers? Like, besides, was that mom?
It was my mom. Yeah.
It was your mom? Okay.
Yep.
Did she pay you for it? Did she pay money?
She did. She didn't even use a coupon, and she had the coupon and she didn't even use it.
That's awesome. But like, at what stage was your product during when your mom, or when that next very first person bought it? Like, what was that? I don't know, on the level of imperfection, I guess.
You mean like the product?
Yeah, the product.
I mean, it's from then until now, there have been improvements made to the products. Obviously the mobile app and stuff, but the guts are essentially they're very congruent. Okay. I don't want to say that they're the same, but we're rolling with a stack that is very similar to what we launched with. So yeah.
I love it. And you, Jen?
The question of who are the first customers?
Yeah, and like what stage was your product at? Which I feel like it was. I've bought your stuff like, I don't know, 2 years ago, I want to say.
I was going to say you were one of the like handful of early people.
But it looked great already.
Yeah. So what happened with us is I had brought up some industrial equipment to Alaska, to Anchorage, to our space, in the idea that we would just make samples here. And then we could actually make something. We actually could use the equipment and make some stuff here. We refined it and we were producing it and made a small batch. And we got in on a cancellation for a little pop-up holiday shop event. And basically we weren't ready, but it was 2 weeks out or a week out. It was like, we're going to have some stuff to have there. So some of our earliest customers were people that I didn't know. Most of the people were friends or, 1 degree of separation type of people. But there are some extremely early adopter customers out there that just happened to come upon our little pop-up stand and buy some things when it was like the very, very first products that we had made in our small space. And we didn't even have it online or on a website or anything yet. So that was pretty exciting. And then when we launched the website, it was mostly friends and family that were purchasing customers. And then, yeah, it's a very that's definitely an all-in experience, that time where it's the first customer that you don't know their name, or after that it's like the first one that's out of the state of Alaska. You're like, who in Virginia knows about this? How do they know about this? So yeah, those moments are like many of the, okay, I'm all in. Okay, yeah, we're doing this. Okay, this is legitimate.
I love it.
Yeah, there's definitely a point at which you feel like you're being pulled. It's not like you're pushing the product anymore. It's like you're being pulled because the demand is there, and it's just, you know, falling into like a, you know, gravity sinkhole. You're just going.
Just going.
Yeah, I love that you're being pulled a little bit. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, I'm writing that down too.
Zach has a lot of really good little bite-sized takeaway one-liner mantras, or whatever you want to call them.
Being pulled by the product. Awesome.
I love it. Well, you know, you guys, you know, have both had amazing companies before you went through gBeta, and then you went through gBeta, which, you know, I loved working with you guys. And kind of looking forward, what are you guys excited about for your businesses? What's like the thing that's like so gripping right now for you guys that you're just super stoked about?
Oh boy, do you want to go first, Zach?
Oh man, I guess 10,000 titles. I don't know. That's kind of my that's my next big milestone, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mine's a little more simple right now, and I don't know if it's just because it's the first part of the year and it's like all about goal setting in the year ahead, but like I'm really excited about what we say yes to and what we don't say yes to. Because at the beginning stages, you're just like, yes, we can do it all. We should do it all. And we're finally at the point where it's like, okay, let's say yes to what we can do well, we want to do well, and we should do. And what should we not say yes to? And who is that? Who is the customer we say no to? Because that sounds insane from the like perspective of just like wanting to keep every door open and just growth and possibility.
Yeah, definitely. And actually on that note, so, you know, being a language company, we do get a lot of language requests. And, you know, besides the 10,000 titles, I think the thing that I'm most excited about is branching into other languages, especially like language rehabilitation and resuscitation. So here in Alaska, we have 22 official languages, and, you know, many of these languages are being diminished. And so one thing that I get really excited about is being able to partner with other education resources and say like, hey, like, let's keep these going. Let's get them into the schools, you know, make it so that, you know, somebody who grew up in the bush in Alaska, they're still going to be able to read in Upiaq or Tlingit or Athabascan or something like that. So yeah, being able to participate in that rehabilitation is pretty cool. Will be pretty cool.
That's very awesome, Zach.
From the perspective of products, coming out, I'm excited because there's a new season ahead. We have new colors coming. I have been working on design work for fall 22 and even like getting ready to think about spring 23. So what fabrics, what colors, what prints, what styles. There's a lot to be excited about. A lot happened in 2021. I'm still sort of digesting all of the positive things that happened, everything from gBeta to Title IX Pitch Fest and so many other amazing things in between. It's kind of like, okay, we're doing it. It's real.
Yeah, we're being pulled.
We're being pulled.
Well, hey, if both of you guys had one last knowledge bomb that you could drop to a new founder or a future founder about customer discovery and experimenting or anything like that, what would it be? Zach, what would yours be?
Oh man. One thing I kind of keep coming back to, it's kind of, well, okay, so there's kind of two versions of this quote, but they both get at the same idea. One of them is Abraham Lincoln. He says, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe." right? So it's all about that preparation. Even the things that don't necessarily look like you're actually doing the thing that you were supposed to do. It's very important to stay sharp. And then the other one is from a Russian soldier in the late 19th century. He's writing in his journal, and he says, if you're out of bullets, strike with the stock. If the stock gives way, hit with your fists. If your fists hurt, bite with your teeth. And I just think that starting a business is in a way, it's kind of like going to war, and you have to be tenacious, you have to be scrappy, and you have to, no matter what obstacle or thing that comes up, even when you're tired, you have to love it, and you have to want to do it. And that's the thing that's going to give you that tenacity and that scrappy, gumption and can do. So, but yeah, that's kind of those are my two things that I always come back to.
That's awesome.
Very
That's
cool.
awesome. How about you, Jen?
I guess further to that, I would say, yeah, those are just excellent points. Oh man, if you're at the point where you're working on a product or you're thinking about doing this crazy thing called starting and running a business, yeah, you have to really, really be sure that it's something that you are very excited to work at for unending hours. And even some people get into this sort of business to, their exit plan might be to start a business and grow it and sell it off. And there's all different types of approaches. And the thing is that no matter what your end plan or your long-term plan is, there's going to be some really hard work that goes into it. But if you're lucky to find that thing that you could be so deeply passionate to work really hard at, someone may pose a question to you, such as what happened to me over the holidays, and said to me, oh man, like this is somebody who I know that has a career that they're happy in and a job that they like, but they're like, oh man, this whole thing about just, working. He was like, if I won the lottery tomorrow, I would quit my job right away and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, what would you do if you won the lottery? I was like, well, I wouldn't stop doing this. And he was like shocked. And we talked about the fact that even if I won the lottery tomorrow, I would be thinking about how I could spend some of that money on making this a better business. So I guess that means like it's that kind of commitment to it. And that sort of passion for whatever it is you decide to get into doing that you need to have to get there.
That's super cool, you guys. Graham, you're on mute. You're very animated, so I don't know what you were saying.
Cue the dance music. I don't know what was happening over there.
Yeah, I was saying I was trying to keep up with you, but I just couldn't because I was so busy like taking in what you were saying. That was awesome. That's awesome. Find something that even if you won the lottery, you just keep doing it. That's great.
But it's going to be hard, and there's going to be those days where you're like, why am I doing this? Should I be doing this? And then you'll get a good night's sleep, or you'll take that 2 mile walk or run or ski or whatever, and you'll be like, oh, that's why I'm doing this. And then you'll come back at it with the fresh mind, and you'll solve all your problems.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I love it. And I do want to say that plug for gBeta. We are recruiting for the third cohort of gBeta, kicking off February 17th. Application deadline is February 4th. If you guys want to talk further with Jen or Zach about their experience, go for it. Don't take my word for it, but talk to them. And
do it.
It was awesome. Highly recommend it. You'll learn a lot about yourself, a lot about your business, and working with Linda is amazing. So
it really is. Highly recommend it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, hey, Linda, if anybody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way, and where can they find you at?
Well, my email is linda@generator.com. That's with an 8. It's not like the easiest thing to spell. But if you Google gBeta, that's Golf, Bravo, Echo, Tango, Alpha, Anchorage, that will pop up. And all my information is right there. So gBeta. And that is my email.
That's it. All right. Cool.
Thank you so much.
What about Jen? How about you? Where can somebody find you and connect?
On social media at Alpine Fit Co. My direct email is Jennifer, JENNIFER, at alpinefit.co. So just .co, not .com. Yeah, or come by and visit in person and shop in Anchorage.
Right on. And Zach?
Yeah.
So Zach, you're frozen. Well, his email is zach@prismatext.com, and it's on the screen. So
there we go.
Just go ahead and say that. It's prismatext.com on the web.
Yeah, there we go. All right, so let's see if I can summarize everything, remember it all. We talked about, most importantly, the user fit. That's, I thought was so great, because Alpine Fit, it's what you're doing. But for every product, every new company, it's making sure that you have the perfect fit is important. There's going to be a lot of naysayers. People are going to tell you, no, that's not possible. Keep pushing to validate. You guys talked about customers are going to tell you a lot. They're going to say, you should make this, or you should add this feature to your software. But like you guys laid out for us, it's best to figure out what is best for your company and identify when is a good time to quit that, or when is a good time to pivot to that whole time. What else? Zach dropped, invest in your bugs. They're there. You got to deal with them. So use them to to make a profit from. And then Zach is not a fan of the proclaimers. He won't. Well, he will walk 500 miles, but to address the problem, he walks 2.
Yep.
That's the only thing I can think of when you were like, I'm going to walk 2 miles. I was like, man, I'm going to walk. I would walk 5. All right. And yeah, continue to refine. That's awesome. You guys have so much experience, so much knowledge. I'm appreciative to be connected with you guys. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah,
Thanks so much for having
Thanks
us.
so much, you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Graham.
All right. Thank you guys. We'll end here, and if you guys want to hang around, we can talk some more.
It sounds great.
Sure.